am Amber and I'm an intuition and subconscious breakthrough mentor. I created this podcast for you to show you your infinite potential, help you break down the barriers to more love in your life, and to make joy a choice by listening to your intuition. No matter if you're married or single, this show is for you because the world would be a much more loving and better place if we learned to all date ourselves. Together we let go of fears and resistance around your dream life so you can show up in your full authenticity. Disclaimer, listening to this podcast might result in a continuous glow up. Let's start the show. Hi my love, welcome back to the Date Yourself podcast. So the inspiration for this episode is because I sometimes doubt if I am still on track, where things are just not yet aligning, or some things just feel off, or you start to doubt yourself before the 11th hour. So do you know how sometimes when we are so close to our goals or so close to something manifesting, and then we feel kind of this doubt of, am I really worthy of it? Or is it really going to happen? Or am I going to be okay in this next phase? Because most of the time our mind is just trying to protect us for something new to come in because it feels unfamiliar. And so sometimes wondering if we're on the right path also means to sit with that discomfort, to know that we're going to be okay and we're on the right path. But how do you know, right? Because sometimes we can be off our path because some things are uncomfortable because they're not right for us. So I wanted to dive deeper into how can you discover this for yourself, how to move through these uncomfortable periods where it's kind of the waiting, but also to recognize what you're doing right already, because we can get fed up with all these ways to grow and learn, but you're a bad bitch already. So first of all, how are we doing? It's the mid of February already. I feel like it's been going by so fast, and that sometimes scares me, but it's also exciting because whenever I feel overwhelmed, I'm just like, what could happen in like the next year, right? Because so many things can change so quickly. In my personal life, there are things changing as well, people making up their minds, right? It's just all these things can happen in a split second, and that's the same with what we want to manifest, what our goals are. Like one moment it's not here and the other moment it is. And I want you to keep that option open as well. I recently heard someone say, like, if you're going to worry about all the worst case scenarios, you probably should be worrying about all the best case scenarios as well, right? And that, I just love that because it puts things into perspective. Especially if you know that our mind is just trying to protect us. So the reason why you are mostly thinking about all those negative points of views is because that is our protection mechanism. But those positive, those best case scenarios are just as valid as those worst case scenarios, or even more valid, because I'm not sure if your mind works like this, but my mind can get into like a shit show scenario that is not even realistic anymore. That's just the function of the mind, right? To create problems, solve problems. I say create problems because even if there's not really a problem, it's probably going to create a problem for you in your mind, because that's just their job. That's the job of your mind. So think about like whenever you were on vacation or whatever, like nothing was going wrong, you felt amazing, and then this sudden thought came up with, I don't know, some random problem about, oh, what did so-and-so think of me when I said this and that, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's just the mind doing its job. So if you know this, it's just frees up this space in your mind where you can be discerning as to, okay, what am I going to take seriously and what am I not going to pay attention to? And this is something that you need to train, right? Because most of us don't know this, and so our default mode is taking every thought on as a truth. But our mind is just kind of repeating whatever it has been fed over the years. So do you notice that your mind also kind of sounds like you? It's not like someone else's voice, right? It's your voice repeating to you whatever you have fed it to believe. And these can be super random things. And that is because it kind of just absorbs everything and then reflects that back to you, right? And so I've told you about the RAS, the reticular activating system, that helps you to sort out the information that is valuable and isn't valuable to the mind. So this is like when you hear your name in a crowd, like there are all these people talking, right? But you still can pick up on your name. That's your RAS filtering out all those other noises and reflecting back to you what's important to you. But then that also works with whatever you decide to focus on. I recently saw someone say, whenever I feel happy, I notice that other people are happy around me as well. So when I'm in a good mood, everybody else seems to be in a good mood. And I was like, girl, that's your RAS, or that's just like a law of attraction. Whatever you are allowing in your focus field, you could say, you're going to pick up on that way more easily than if you were focused on something else. For example, if you have anxiety, I used to cope with panic attacks and anxiety, and sometimes it still comes up. But this is mostly when I get into my head a lot, and then I notice that everything kind of feels like a struggle, right? And so that is also what then I am paying attention to. So I've learned to cope with this because fear is such an intense emotion, and I'm really happy that I've been able to kind of conquer this battle with fear through my anxiety. Actually, you might even say that I'm grateful for that whole thing happening, like getting panic attacks and whatever, because it really made me want to understand fear in a much greater way, because what it comes down to is actually an emotion. And we can feel fear and still perform. There are people who have stage fright but still can give this amazing talk, right? And I know that panic is a disorder, and it should be taken really seriously, and it's pretty intense. But at the same time, knowing how to cope with it, I also know how to be okay while feeling fear, right? Because I've kind of experimented with how can I make myself feel more at ease through going through that. And I just learned that I am capable of doing so much more than I think that I can. And this also made me question a lot of my beliefs and what I am capable of doing. So what it feels like when you have anxiety or a panic attack, if you're not familiar, is more like everything around you is moving so fast. And a mental health professional explained it to my mom like, it kind of feels like she's dying, but she's not, but it feels like she's dying. Which is, it sounds so extreme, but that's why it is so extreme to feel that fear. It is truly panic because you feel like you need to save yourself, but you're not sure what from, right? And so that is kind of the intensity of it, but still needing to be able to function with that. And I'm just talking about this because this is my personal reference point, right? There are many different mental things that you can cope with and deal with, or like situations at home that are really tough, really draining you, not feeling safe, or not knowing where to go. But just to say that our mind can really take over and kind of dictate what we should or shouldn't do. And so going through this, I just decided that no, I'm not going to let my mind take over the show, right? I'm not going to let my belief system of what other people have told me what I can and cannot do. So you probably have heard me talk also about how we start to believe the things that people tell us, especially between the ages of 0 to 7. So that is what I mean by listening like to what other people think I can and cannot do. There are so many stories in our minds that dictate what we can do, what we're good at, who we should be, what our persona is, right? And that is not the ultimate truth, because those things are just reflections of how other people see us, what other people want from us, right? So you have the mind and then you have the soul. I personally believe that who we truly are is who we are within our soul, because our mind, like I said, it's just reflecting back to us all these things that it has picked up on through the years and giving signals to protect you. And then you also have lungs, which have like the function of breathing, right? And so all these parts in our bodies have functions for us to survive. I think that our brain is just as important as our lungs and our heart to be able to survive. But it's ultimately not who we are. Just like our job is not who we are, just like our friends are not who we are, that is just the persona, right? And not everybody is ready to hear that, because it kind of gives you a feeling of freedom to know that whatever you choose to take on as your identity is not really who you are. It just kind of shapes who you present yourself as to the outside world. I hope you're still following me, because this has kind of been a process of me discovering like, what is my identity and who do I feel at home with within myself, right? Who do I feel safe with? And that is my soul. And it's a difference, because you can shape your identity. You can shift your job. You can shift friendships. You can do whatever you want, right? Because that's just you making the choice of, okay, now I'm deciding to be like this. And that's your identity, and that's beautiful. I also love to work with the identity, to feel good about yourself and to know that you're ready for example, a next level, because we need to take on the identities of the people that we really want to become, right, in order to become them. And so that might be through, for example, clothing. This might be through learning new things by new people. This might be because of networking, that you're getting new people into your space that really inspire you and that help you level up, right? That's all identity, but that is needed to make those shifts. And I love that so much. But ultimately, to know if you're on the right path, you cannot really ask your identity that. That is something that you need to feel within yourself, within your soul. And so I want to invite you to invite in the soul a little bit more, because the soul can give you this ultimate freedom and peace, because it is always on the right path. What I've learned through my soul has really helped me to let go of a lot of baggage, a lot of that fear, and to know that I am ultimately good enough where I am right now, and to trust in that as well. And that gives a lot of peace and clarity. It is also teaching me how to show up for myself better. It also teaches me what is no longer serving me and what I can let go. The soul just wants you to have the most fun in this lifetime as possible. So it is going to give you growth opportunities. It's going to tell you when it's time to shine a little bit more. It's not going to tell you to keep it all in, or to hide away, or to panic. It's just here to tell you, like, I love you. Let's explore this because it feels fun. And yes, baby, you're doing good enough. That's basically the voice of the soul. And I know this because I have been experimenting with listening to the voice of my soul instead of the voice of the mind. I also recorded another episode about this as well, where I dive deeper into it. I'm not sure which episode that was, but I will find out and link it in the show notes for if you're interested. And so this is because I learned from Bella Lively. She does the inner voice method, where she listens to the soul's voices of other people. And so you kind of get into a meditative state where you can get answers from the soul really easily. And so this is also what I do when I do coaching with other people. So I have had the privilege of listening to a lot of soul voices, and I kind of can predict now what they're going to say. And it's always a message of love, of encouragement, but also effective practical tips to stay on your path and to redirect your focus back to what is most aligning to you, what is most in line with your soul, because it's your soul. It wants you to be happy. It wants you to experience growth. It wants you to experience love and to feel good enough already, because you just simply are. And that is always what the soul is reminding us, which is why I just love working with the soul. And so these last few weeks, I noticed myself kind of being distracted by the outside world, how I was perceived, my identity, stuff like that. And it just didn't really feel right. And so I was like, okay, I think I need to like reconnect with my soul a little bit more. And as I was doing a client session, my client also gave back to me like, Amber can really bring you back home to yourself. And I was like, yeah, that's like, I do it as a session. Like, I know how to guide people home, and sometimes I forget myself, right? And so I just sat down and did my meditation, my soul work that I do. I call it soul integration work, as I learn from the soul and then I integrate it and take action from that place. After that, I work together with the mind. I don't let the mind rule me. I let the soul guide me and then use the mind. And I'm so happy that I did, because it truly helps you to cancel out all the other noise that is maybe overwhelming or too much, or not even aligning with what you stand for or what you want to do. It brings you back to the importance of feeling happy within your soul, within yourself. Basically, it's really simple, and that's why I love it, because it's not that. It doesn't have to be so complicated, right? It's just, who are you truly? That's your soul. How do you know if you're on the right path? Come back to your soul, because your soul will tell you. Your mind will not be able to tell you. The mind will be telling you what other people want of you, what society says you should do, right? So I want to invite you to just take a second to just breathe with me now, to just take 3 deep breaths. It's really simple, and you're going to love it after. I promise you. So just take, and also make sure you're not driving if you're doing this, because that's dangerous. Let's not do that. But if you have a moment, or even if you don't really have a moment, just try this, okay? Just deep breath in, deep breath out. Deep breath in. Take your time. And a long breath out. Here we go. Last one. You got this. Deep breath in. And a deep breath out. So the reason why we're doing this is so simple. But the reason why we're doing this is because the mind is always trying to keep up and be busy, right? To solve these problems. That's not where you hear the soul. The soul is not in the mind. The soul is actually lower within your body. So if you are going to do a session with me, I'm going to connect you to either your heart or your belly, to your gut. That's where the soul lives. So you can imagine, if you're just thinking, being busy, it's not easy to hear your soul. So if you're slowing down, that's actually how you can connect. If you slow down, you also slow down those thoughts. And so you open up this space to receive what you really feel, what you really need. And so if you like this, if you want to try this, you can ask your heart. And I just do this by focusing my attention on my heart. You can also lay one hand on top of your heart to breathe into that space, to connect with it a little bit more, or your belly. And just ask that place, because your soul does not live in the mind, so you can ask the question to your mind, but it's going to give you a very different answer than if you ask the question to your heart. So a question that you could ask yourself, for example, is, how are we doing right now, truly? And just feel whatever word comes up. It can be pressure, can be space, can be peace, can be anxiety, fear. And then maybe ask your belly or your heart, what would you like me to feel instead? And just listen. That's the magic word. If you're not open, if you're not willing to listen, your mind is going to just blah, 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 blah. As it always does, right? It's really about patience and being open to this new experience. As we're not being taught how to do this, right? To slow down and to ask the question somewhere within our body. So ask your heart or your belly, your gut, what would you like me to start feeling instead? And I love what my heart just said. It said, courage. And I know that I really need that. And so recognize how wise your soul is and that it knows exactly what you need. And then maybe set the intention, make this promise to yourself, like, okay, I'm going to give that to you. Maybe you don't know how. Maybe you have kind of an idea, but it doesn't matter. If you set the intention, your soul will work with you to guide you towards that feeling. Because whatever you focus on, right, that is what you will see around you. So your intention is your focus. So I'm setting my intention to feel more courage, to do what is needed. And I love how I already feel a little bit different setting that intention, knowing that I will be guided to that feeling, because I know through experience that that is always the case. And so you can experiment with this, right? So if you want to experience more of your soul voice, you can do my meditation that is a little bit longer than this, but it's really easy. I also give you a lot more explanation, and I guide you through this step by step in the Glow Up bundle. And this Glow Up bundle has a bunch of other cool freebies in there as well, but mostly this is what we do in that Glow Up bundle. This is what I do with my work. So if you like this, definitely check that out. I think you'll love it. And I'm sharing that because then you can feel more at home with yourself, which I would love for you to experience more of. So a simple way to get started with using your soul more in your day-to-day life, or when making a decision, or to ask yourself if you're on the right path, is to just ask yes or no questions. But maybe you want to get a little bit more information, right, than just a simple yes or no. I would always recommend asking why yes or why no. And the soul also sometimes says yes and no at the same time, because maybe partially like your plan is really good, or the decision that you want to make is kind of right, but there also needs to be kind of an adjustment, right? And so then you can get yes and no. So please don't stop with just yes or no, or yes and no. If you feel like you need more information, just ask why yes, why no, right? And just feel whatever comes up. This is also what I do with my clients as well. And you get so much more answers and deepening of what your soul really tries to communicate with you if you keep asking questions. And I love asking questions because it just gives you so much information. And I recognize this within myself as I was noticing that I was more focused on persona and the outside like this week. And I'm sometimes just scared to hear the answer. Like, I've been doing this for 6 years now, but I still know that if I'm going to ask my soul, it's going to give me the answer that is true for me fully. So I cannot like really hide behind excuses, or like I still can. I can like hear the answer and just disregard it, right? And then just go do something else. Of course, we all have free will. We can do whatever the fuck we want, right? For sure. But your soul says the answer in a way that it's really resonating with your whole being. You just know that that is the answer. And so you cannot really unsee it or unhear it, basically. And so I was kind of postponing that moment with myself to really come back home to myself. And this is what I see happening a lot. We sometimes kind of sabotage our own peace, our own happiness, because most of us have learned that we need to struggle and strive in order to be happy, right? But what if you just sat down for a little bit, come back to yourself, and feel way fucking better? It's because it's that simple. It's just our conditioning, our society that tells us you need to be miserable before you can be happy. You need to be working before you can have this little moment of relaxation, of peace. That's not the truth. That is just whatever we have taken on as a truth. That is what we have fed our minds. And then we started to believe in it, right? And so I feel like 1,000 times better now that I have reconnected back with my soul voice. I know that I am on the right path. I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm being led towards courage, as I just heard that is what I need. And I completely agree with it, because there are some things that I'm looking really like forward to, but it feels a little bit overwhelming. And so I need the courage. So what can I do for myself as I'm dating myself, as I'm having this really good relationship with myself as to how can I get myself in a place of feeling courage? What do I need? How can I give it to myself? The longer that we ignore those needs or speak up about it or take action on it, the more that we neglect ourselves. And that's not what we do here, right? Otherwise, you would not be listening to the Date Yourself podcast, so girl, we don't do that here. So I would love for you to, first of all, just download the Glow Up Guide, do that meditation. It's going to give you way more information about your soul voice and how it can guide you. But also to just notice whenever you are tripping up in that fear spiral of, I need to do this, I need to do that, and to just take 3 deep breaths, right? It's that simple. And to just come back to yourself. Maybe journal about what it is that you are going through to get more clarity. Or to maybe talk to a friend. Do these things that you feel within your heart or your gut that you really need so you can take better care of yourself. So you can confirm if you're on the right path or not. And the other part of this is, which is also beautiful, just like we can work with our minds and our persona to create this version of ourselves that we are ready to step into, right? To up level. I want to point out that clarity also comes through taking action. So on the one hand, it's yes, take this moment to stand still and tune in, because otherwise you won't hear yourself. You're just going to hear the voices of your surroundings. And the other part of it is, through doing comes clarity. So if you feel inspired to do something and you're questioning if you're on the right path and something feels inspiring or interesting or exciting, or you have a conversation with someone and something sparks your interest, go try to see what happens if you move in that direction as well. Take that action, that inspired action, because I also believe that that is our soul nudging us to go in that direction. Whenever you feel excitement, whenever you feel inspiration, that is also the voice of your soul. It's kind of telling you hey, pay attention. This is something that we feel resonates with us, right? So it is in alignment with your soul. And so maybe it's a detour that kind of gives you inspiration to go somewhere else next after you have tried that out. Just for example, you apply for a job and then that job is really interesting and it gives you kind of the experience, but it's not really where you are most thriving. And then you apply for another job after you've learned certain things or specialized in something. And then you are ready for the next level job, right? So it is all about trying things out and following that curiosity and that inspiration, which is going to give you clues on what your path is. And so yes, take time to listen to yourself, but also yes, take inspired action to see where that leads you as well. And lastly, believe a little bit more in yourself, babes, because we mostly just try to find our worth in how other people perceive us and what they say is possible, right? But you will be surprised at what is possible if you start believing in yourself more and take that inspired action to give more love towards yourself. And so you just become really attractive to new opportunities, new people, because you already feel confident within yourself that you've got this, right? And that's kind of the game that I want you to be playing. Last week's episode was all about who are you playing the game for? That is a question that I asked. And the conclusion was I hope that you're playing this game for yourself, because if you're doing it for other people, you're probably going to lose, right? Because it can never be good enough. So how can you choose yourself more, basically, and feel good about that? It's when you believe that you're worthy of doing that. And yes, that is difficult sometimes because maybe you have to set boundaries, maybe you have to try new things, right, that are out of your comfort zone. But I hope that you can love yourself through that, and also know that, for example, that fear is just an emotion, and that you can work with your belief system to disregard what it has told you in the past, because now you know that it's just kind of this parrot that is reflecting back to you what someone else has told it. And so your brain is just out there to help you. It's not the be and end all. And your soul is always there to guide you. I hope you have a magical rest of your week. I love you. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. You can always email me. I will put it in the show notes, or otherwise DM me on Insta. See you in the next one. Bye.